This is Nicholas Blackwell Daily Log. Hopefully not my last one. I've found something concerning the current pace virus we're researching. The reason for this quick log is because we went into lockdown and I am now stuck in our lab, potentially for good. This food won't last forever. I'm also worried we may have been compromised. In case this is my last report, I want to make sure that anyone hearing this knows this information. I've been the lead on the research of what many have been calling the zombie plague, an event we always worried about. We prepared for it and then realized that, like any illness, nothing can prepare you for it. In fact, no illness plays by the rules effectively. It evolves, it changes, it devalues. At least that's the hope, that it loses strength, but that's not always what happens. Some actually become stronger. We first receive a body from Pennsylvania's countryside. I'm hearing one of a couple of different ones. I can't remember the exact location, but the main problem was that when we received the individual, they were not as deceased as we were led to believe. He had been put on ice, and when he effectively thawed out, he began to stir. And it's important to understand that bodies, they make noise, they move. What's left of brain and nervous systems reacting to gas or bloat. We've seen bodies sit up, some raise their hands, but you get used to it. But when you come in and see the gurney empty, well, that's very concerning. The first thinking was they lowered his core temperature so low that he basically woke up, and we need to find him quick to determine any brain damage had set in, etc. What we encountered was way worse. Vic 1 was not happy, and yeah, that's what we named him. He was in a corner, and once he knew we weren't there, he was growling, and I immediately knew we'd have a problem. My assistant tried to restrain him, and I was doing a pretty good job until this thing started biting at him, and he let go. I told him to grab the plastic sheet originally used to cover him up and wrap him up so that he couldn't move, and that's what we did. We're able to basically tie him down to the gurney and lock in the restraints. If I ever get a chance to write the manufacturer, I'm just going to say I owe him a beer for making that standard equipment. We took his vitals and nothing. Didn't detect a heartbeat. No official breathing. Although muscles were trying to do their job, we did see some sort of defibrillation. They were already deteriorated and they were unable to perform their proper functionings. Still here, he was on our table moving and growling at us. More like gurgling, but you get the idea. Many others had come in to research this cadaver, I guess. Batteries of tests, some worked, some didn't. We started to get the idea of what was going on. We just needed to know what was fueling it. I did some background, and I realized this was not the first time this had happened. One that really jumped out at me was an event in, I believe it was Peoria, Illinois, but most of the information we pulled was considered need to know or top secret. The government just wouldn't tell us what really happened there. And so that was a dead end, and time passed, and then the case in Florida happened. Similar reports as before, biting individuals, refused to respond to commands, taking multiple shots to take one down. We began to see more and more of this, and I'll get back to this in a second. At this point, things began to become more and more involved. More and more active reports were coming in. We were getting more bodies and more people. And then the Atlanta incident, and we knew that the spread was our first concern. Vic 1 was immediately quarantined, and I went from testing him and the others that came in sporadically to testing us. See, we thought at first that people were bitten or possibly came in with contact from the substance that these things are draining, which is, we're going to call it blood, but that effectively was the culprit of what was causing it to go from one person to the next. If you ever smeared this stuff on you or got it in a wound, you'd immediately become sick and probably become infected. But the ones that were coming in at the forefront, they didn't have this. They hadn't come in contact with it. There was no place where there was any sort of transmission that we had seen. See, those tests we give everyone, it is more like a testing for a symptom. It begins by changing your blood. So we have to test the blood. And that's why you have headaches, and most show signs of meningitis or encephalitis. It's effectively choking the brain while keeping what I would call the core thing of your brain alive, which is, it's going to plan to use that later. It's going to use it like a puppet for the new system that's going to be moving in. We can test that blood to see how much of it is DNA and how much of it is morphed. See, if you see symptoms though, it's already over. That's pretty much a crap test to know when to put someone down. If they test positive, it's over. And we have tests a little more involved, of course, that can be expensive and difficult to read and to use. But basically, if you have the markers, your body has already been prepped to have the infection involved once you die. Death becomes the switch. The turn, is I think everybody's calling it. Well, we tested everyone in the building and everyone was positive. We just got these results too. So what I'm afraid of is just being around these things, coming into contact with them in any way, is what is actually spreading this. That it was using us sort of like a petri dish for survival. It would go dormant, then death would trigger the snap, and then the infection would actually begin. Even the cadavers that had been embalmed were basically coming back to life, or reanimating, which means it was us that spread it. It was on the money. We passed the cashiers, a handshake, a sneeze in the air, bumping into someone on the subway or the bus, the chair you sat on at the doctor's. Once you have it, all you're waiting for is a serious illness or anything that results in your demise, and then it takes over. I'm afraid someone saw the report, decided to choose the easy way out, not realizing the problem isn't being alive. The problem is when you're not anymore. God, can we shut the alarm off, please? So, to put it in perspective, the illness is keeping these things alive. They aren't going to just fall over. There'll be another system in place once they stop. And I fear that will make it worse. But I can't get into that right now. Remember, even from the beginning, Civil Defense told us to say nothing. Even when Major Hodge wanted to get it out, when he wanted to tell the world, he was overruled. And we know what's happening. What will happen. And it's based on how many people will die a day. If they have it, which there's no telling how far this is spread or who has it. There's no getting ahead of this. That's why it spread like it did. Before, if it was transmitted through a bite or something similar, we could restrain it, we could get ahead of it. And I think that was the original plan, was they just figured this would kind of blow over and they could get ahead of it and everything would just be fine. But that didn't happen. People became the fuel for this new infection. And really, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. I don't think we can stop it until it's over. So if you find this, simply get this to the Major Robert Hodge. He'll probably be in Langley, or at least someone there will know how to get it to him. Tell him all this information. It's on this disc. And if he finds out the true cause for this, he can stop it. It's all there. And no, we can't save people. And I know that's something that worried him. But that's the reality. I don't want to give any false hope. There's no coming back from death. But maybe, just maybe, if we get all this stuff out and we have somebody else that can do, or at least finish our research, we can stop it. Yeah, Margaret, I see them. Just so you know, we're officially stuck here. So, before I go, I wish everybody the best of luck, Godspeed, and may you find a way out of this. I think you can guarantee that you won't see me again.